it was said that she killed about 600 men with Aqua Tofana. Hi everyone, welcome back to All Things Jeerah, and I'm back with another story. Now this story is about Guilia Tofana. Before I get into the story, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and make sure you share it with your friends. Guilia Tofana was born in 1620 in Palermo, Sicily. Now at this time, women could only really take care of themselves by either begging, getting married, or sex work. There were many arranged marriages, and the men had total control over their wives and over the women in the area. So when they were married, a lot of times they were really abused and neglected and just treated horribly overall. Divorce wasn't an option, so you just stayed married. You stayed married until one of you died. And there were no consequences or punishments for the husbands. Now, Giulia's mother was Tofania di Adamo, and she was actually executed in 1633 for killing her husband. Giulia was friends with many apothecaries, and she learned how to make medicines and treatments from them. She may have also learned how to make poisons from them. And some people say she learned how to make poisons from the apothecary. Some say she learned from her mother, and others say she learned on her own. Now, at about 13, Giulia had her own cosmetics business, and she sold makeup and beauty treatments. She also sold a poison that she made, and she called it Aqua Tofana. Aqua Tofana was a poison made up of arsenic, lead, and belladonna. And belladonna is a poisonous plant, and it was actually used in a lot of cosmetics at that time. It was used to dilate the pupils. So apparently having dilated pupils was some type of sign of beauty at that time. Arsenic and lead were also very commonly found in cosmetics at that time, so it wasn't odd for her to have those things. Arsenic and lead were used to lighten the skin. Now, over the years, people have used really strange things, or things that we would find strange or even scary in beauty products and cosmetics. If you want a video about that, let me know in the comments and I'll do that. Initially, Aqua Tofana was sold in some type of powder form. It didn't look any different than any other facial powder that a woman would use. I'm not sure when, but at some point she changed the formula and she made it into a liquid and she put it into small vials. The vials were labeled as the Manna of St. Nicholas of Bari, as a healing oil or a healing liquid. Now, the Manna of St. Nicholas of Bari was actually a real product at that time. It was very strange. If you want a video about that, let me know in the comments and I'll do that. So whenever she sold the Aqua Tofana, she would have written instructions either on a card or on the label that told people how to use it. So it looked like a legitimate beauty product or beauty treatment when it was actually a poison. So Aqua Tofana was eventually made into a liquid, and you would put drops into someone's drink or to someone's food. And this was a slow acting poison. It would take several days and several drops of the Aqua Tofana for the person to actually die. So initially they would get a little sick, they would feel bad, and gradually they would get worse and worse until death. So with the first drop, they would just have mild cold symptoms. The third drop, they would feel really fatigued, really more like flu-like. It would induce vomiting, diarrhea, and burning in the stomach. And by the fourth drop, the person would die. And because this was a slow death and the person was getting sicker gradually, the person would have time to get their affairs in order. They would, call a doctor. The doctor would see to them. They would see they weren't getting better, and they would start making wills and figuring out where the property was going to go and that type of thing. She typically sold this product to women that were in abusive marriages that just didn't have another way out. So of course this wasn't advertised. It was more of a word of mouth thing. So if she sold it to one person, they use it to poison their husband. If they had a friend that was in a similar situation, they would refer her to Giulia. It was known by word of mouth to the women in the area that they could go to Giulia if they didn't have another way out of their situation. And Giulia would only be recommended to women that could be trusted, not to tell. Now, when someone came to Giulia for help and they needed this product, she wouldn't immediately sell it to them. She would kind of check them out, see what the situation was. Were they really in this abusive situation? Could they be trusted? And she had to make sure that she wasn't going to be caught because of this. Now, Julia would also coach the women on how to act during this whole process. So she would tell them how to act when they were delivering the poisons to the husband, how to act when they initially started to get sick. And, she made sure that they would act nervous or really anxious, really scared that their husbands were really sick. That she would make sure that they called the doctor, that the doctor came to see the person, or that the doctor came to see their husband. And upon their death, she would tell them to make sure that they demanded a post-mortem exam. Now, demanding this post-mortem exam would kind of relieve some of the suspicion that was on the wife, if there were any. Now, Julia, she already knew that the ingredients in Aqua Tofana weren't going to be found on a post-mortem exam. Just at that time, they weren't able to do that. And Julia did this for almost 30 years. She even taught her own daughter how to do this. Now, Julia was married at some point and her husband died, but I couldn't find how he died. She was doing this with her daughter and she had some employees. So that was her trusted crew, so to speak. So Julia did this for almost 30 years. It was said that she killed about 600 men with Aqua Tofana. A woman went to Julia for some Aqua Tofana. So Julia checked her out, asked around about her to make sure she could be trusted. She was in this abusive situation, so she sold her the Aqua Tofana. Julia gave her all the instructions, what to do, how to act. The woman took the Aqua Tofana home. She put 2 drops of it in her husband's soup. So her husband comes home and he starts to eat the soup. He had maybe 1 or 2 spoonsful of soup. As he went to pick up the spoon again, she started to scream at him to stop, to put the spoon down, don't eat the soup. And her husband is confused. She's not telling him why he needs to stop eating the soup, but he's confused. He doesn't understand what's going on. She's just screaming. So immediately her husband gets up. He actually beats her until she tells him what's going on. So she admitted that she had poisoned his soup, and he made her tell him where she got the poison from, and she told that Julia sold her the poison. Her husband took her to the authorities and they tortured her until she told everything she knew about the poison and about Julia. So word got back to Julia that someone had told. So Julia starts to pack her bags, her daughter is packing, and they're planning to leave town. So they head out and they get to this church. So she went to this church. And they asked for sanctuary at the church, and the church agreed to let them stay there until Julia could figure out how she would get out of town. While Julia was at this church, rumors around the town started to spread that not only had Julia killed all these men with the Aqua Tofana, that she had actually poisoned the water supply. Now, this wasn't true, but the rumors were just going around because no one really knew exactly what was going on. Now, as these rumors started to spread and people were more concerned that the water supply was poisoned and that Julia had done it, a mob formed and they went around town looking for her. Eventually, they found her in the church and they demanded that the priest let them get her. And if they did not get her, they were going to burn the church down. Now, the priests that were there, they eventually gave Julia up. They didn't want to have their church burned down, so they gave Julia to the mob, and the mob took Julia to the authorities. So Julia was tortured until she confessed, and she actually gave the names of some of her clients as well. Julia was executed with her daughter and 3 of her employees. Once she was executed, a mob actually took her body and threw her over the wall of the church that was allowing her to stay there for that short time. Later on, the names that she gave, they eventually found those people and tortured them as well until they confessed, and they were all executed too. At some point, poisoning became a common weapon, and women used this when they were in abusive situations and they needed to get away from their husbands and they couldn't get a divorce. It was better to be a widow and to be taken care of by someone that way than to be a beggar on the street or a sex worker. This became a common way for women to get out of their marriages. So that's it. That's it for my story today. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Have you ever heard of Aqua Tofana or any other poisoning stories? If you have, let me know. If you have any thoughts on what stories I should do next, let me know in the comments. Make sure you like my video, subscribe to my channel, and share my channel with your friends. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.